Honey, you've changed. Debbie needs a haircut.
Are you trying to replace me with Jackson? Hi, buddy. Yes, was a good boy. Sorry. Today we're going to talk to you about how we upholstered the walls in our van. We're going to talk about the material we used, why we chose those materials, and how it's working for us. If you've ever been in an RV or camper van that has mildewy or moldy walls, you will have a special appreciation for the way we built out this camper van. The material we used is marine vinyl. This is what it looks like. We got the idea from Humble Road, so thank you, Humble Road. What I love about our walls is that you can wipe them down very easily. This material, marine vinyl, is antimicrobial, it is waterproof, it is very easy to keep clean. I had originally this great idea of going through a whole sample book of colors, which I ordered, and I did go through all the samples and all the colors, and I ended up decorating this van with the same two colors that we used in our home. We used a soft gray on our walls, and we used white on our ceiling. It keeps it light and bright, and we're really happy with the end result. Vans are notorious for having odd curves and shapes and all kinds of surfaces that need to be upholstered. And in this van, we had nice flat surfaces, we had curves, and because we have a Ford Transit, like all Ford Transits, we have a blob. That is easily the hardest surface that we were upholstering. And when you are working with challenging shapes and sizes like this, a heat gun is your friend. Before we started upholstering our van, we did our research and we thought we figured out the correct way to upholster. But as you can see from our first attempt, it is not a smooth surface. It's not what we intended. And the product that we used for this was the 3M High Strength 90 Contact Adhesive. It's a great product, but it was not the right product for this application. What we ended up using was a roll-on contact adhesive that worked much better.
The first thing you want to do when making a wall covering piece is get yourself a piece of cardboard and make yourself a template as close as you can to your actual size. You will have to do a little bit of trimming after you transfer that to wood, but make it as accurate as you possibly can. And then you want to figure out where your rib nuts are going to go in the actual van itself. And once you have those drilled and installed, then take your template, put it over there, and transfer your rib nut locations to your template. And now you're ready to move on to working with the wood. The first decision you'll have to make is how thick of Baltic birch you're going to want. We did 1/4 inch for our walls and 1/8 inch for our ceiling. So once you figure that out, then get yourself some Baltic birch and transfer your pattern, the cardboard pattern, to your piece of wood. I cut out a piece of wood here with a bunch of weird little angles to show you how to stretch all of this and make it cover this. So the first thing you want to do is go through and sand all of your edges. I actually took a router to mine to give them a nice little rounded corners on all the sides, just to make sure that everything rolled nicely and I didn't rip any of the marine vinyl. So I'll sand this. You don't have to watch me sand it. Then you get your marine vinyl and you make sure you have extra space on each side. I'd say at least 1 inch so that you have room to pull it over. And then we chose to have some padding, and we use this closed cell foam it's 1/4 inch to put onto the Baltic birch before we put on the vinyl. And so this just gives it a little bit of padding and just feels good against the wall. So this is optional. There may be a little bit of insulation properties in this, but not much. You want to gather your supplies. So the first thing is this contact adhesive, which is really gnarly to work with, but works really well. The second is a roller to roll it on. And then, of course, your heat gun. Now, if you don't have a heat gun, a blow dryer will work, but a heat gun really works the best. So I got my gloves on, I got my roller. I took a little of the cement out, and what I do is I pour it on to the foam, and I just roll it out, get a nice even coating. You want to do it while it's wet. If you let it get sticky, then it starts getting weird on you. And I do the same thing on the actual piece of wood. Usually you're working with bigger pieces of wood, but you take it all the way out to the edge. And then make sure that you're in a super well ventilated area, because this stuff is gnarly. Is gnarly a real word? I don't know. Get that coated on there. That's all there is to it. Now you have to let it sit and dry. And you want to get it to where it's sticky. This is still wet, but it shouldn't transfer over to your glove. This one dried already. It's a kind of a warm day here. This one's not ready. So you wait after you've let this dry and get tacky, and this the same way. Then what you do is you start at one end and you let it stick, and then you push it so that it adheres all the way over. And then you go and push it all the way down. And also, once the foam is securely fastened to the wood, then what you want to do is take a very sharp blade and go through and just trim it off what you're not using. You can see it trims super easy. Now I have the closed cell foam attached securely to the Baltic birch, and I'm ready for the vinyl. In the same way, I take the glue, a little bit of glue on the closed cell foam, spread it around, try and keep it going while it's wet. If it gets sticky, then it starts bunching up and you might not get a flat surface. You make sure you cover the whole thing. And I go around the edges too. Although those won't be covered in this step. All right, so I have that, set that aside. And I do the same thing for the marine vinyl. Oh. You can see that I marked out the general area where I'm going to be applying the piece so that I don't waste glue. Everything's covered. Now that both pieces are dry and tacky to the touch, you want to start on one end and roll it over. And then push down. Once I've pushed it down, I flip it over and take a little roller and roll all the bubbles out. So I'm getting this corner ready to be folded over. So I do a cut and leave about 1/4 of an inch. I cut it there and then I flip it and I cut it here also on the other side. And what it's going to do is I'm going to pull it like this, and then you can see this will come over and make a nice clean corner. So to finish this off, I just cut off some of these pieces that are actually going to be in the way of giving a nice clean look. I also coat the back side where the flaps are going to attach. So now that the surfaces are tacky, you pull out your heat gun and you start heating this corner. It's not a whole lot of heat. You just want to get the marine vinyl stretchy. Once it's stretchy, you pull it over the corner like so. And you can see how that corner looks from this side to finish off the corner. So you heat this up. You can heat both sides up at the same time. They stay warm for a while. And then you pull this over just like that. And you do the same thing on this side, tucking it in and pulling it over. And that gives you your edge. Along the sides, you do the same thing. You heat it up, and then you pull it taut and pull it over. And that gives you a really tight corner on the side of your wall unit. Curves are a little more tricky, but the principle is the same. You heat them up and then stretch them around the corner. And if you have to do relief cuts, that's okay. Don't be shy about making relief cuts. They will make your job a lot easier. Just keep the strips big enough so you can get your fingers on them. And this one's going to be difficult because it's just a small little circle. So heat it up like you do all the other ones. And then begin pulling them over. I'll show you what that looks like on the other side. The key is to make sure that these hold. And so what I do is take a staple gun and staple these when the stapler's on. Staple these also to make sure, give myself a little extra staying power. These extra flaps I will cut off to keep it as flat as possible. The last step is to take some reflectance, cut a piece the same size as your wall panel and staple that to it. One lesson that you can learn from my mistakes is to always use ample amount of contact cement. You can see on this corner right here, I have an air bubble. And two mistakes I made. One, I didn't use enough glue or contact cement, and I didn't stretch it enough with the heat gun when I was applying it. So at some point, I'm going to have to go in, take this panel off, and repair this. Good news is the marine vinyl is rugged enough to stand up to rework. So this won't be a problem at all when I get ambitious enough to fix this. So as you can see, we're not professional upholsterers, but we did do this. You know, I never showed you the back. That's with the reflectance stapled on there. So hopefully you found this interesting or helpful. If you have any questions, any comments, please reach out to us. I will get back to you because I want these videos to be helpful. And so open to your suggestions. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.